Hello everybody and welcome to the cooperation in 13 different endurance sports. Some words in Finnish now. Meillä on ollut kestävyyslajien yhteistyötä jo 4 vuotta vuodesta 2017 lähtien ja nyt me järjestetään 5. kerran liveseminaareja. Niitä voi toki seurata sitten myöhemminkin tallennettuina. Nyt alkavat esitykset. Tämän päivän 2 on numerot 42 ja 43. Ja näitä on yhteensä katsottu lähes 34 000 kertaa, eli aika hyvää tiedonlevitystä on tehty. Niin, this year's first presentation comes from a very exciting recruitment to Finnish orienteering. He comes from Saint-Étienne, France, has been living some years in Sweden and gives this presentation from Uppsala in Sweden. The man can be called as Mr. Orienteering in elite sport, elite orienteering, and he has 14 World Championships gold medals, and he's won gold in each different orienteering competition form of orienteering: sprint orienteering, middle distance, long distance, and relay. And in many of those, obviously many times, 14 gold medals. And Thierry started last Friday officially as head coach in Finnish orienteering. Is working with a 4-year contract towards orienteering world champs in Finland 2025. So I'm very proud to give the word to Mr. Thierry Gueorgiou. Please take the speech.
I'm really proud to be a little part of the Finnish elite sport culture. It feels really good, even though I have just started my contract. And but I must say I have been working for a couple of weeks, and I really want to thank all the Finns because you have been welcoming me so well, and I feel very comfortable with this responsibility. I will do this presentation in English, so you will see I'm not the best English speaker in the world. I'm much better in French. But I hope you will get something out of it. So first, some word about myself. So Oli-Pekka said most of it, but I'm 42 years old. I have been competing mostly for the French team, being professional quite many years and quite successful. And as said Oli-Pekka, what's important to say in orienteering is like we have very different distances. So sprint being the shortest distance, so it's 15 minutes in urban area, up to a long distance, which most of time is 1 hour 40. In orienteering, we very much talk about time instead of distances because the terrains, of course, affect so much the speed, but we will get back to this. And a big part of my career, of course, I have been competing for Finnish clubs, so I know a little bit the Finnish training culture. So 18 years in Kalevanuasti in Joensuu, very nice memory from that time. But right when I stopped my elite career 1 month after, I was coaching the Swedish team. So of course it was a very interesting experience because in just 1 month you turn from being only focused in one person to focus and try to understand 20%. So this was very educational, I would say. And now what matters most in my days is, of course, the Finnish orienteering. So I have a 4 years contract, and as said Oli-Pekka, 2025, very important year for Finnish orienteering with World Championships in Kuopio. But we have World Championships every year, and we want to close the gap to the best. So basically today I will talk about preparation for orienteering competition. So if I'm realistic, we need at least 3 books to talk about this, and I just have 45 minutes. So of course I will just pick some concepts I believe in, and it will be very superficial, but I think they are like quite a common basis to all the sports. So I hope you get something out of it. So I try to divide this presentation in 3 parts: preparation, evaluation, and competing. Of course, it's for me a way to prepare for competition and be successful, so I will explain why. First, what I have realized during my elite career, but mostly during my competition, my coaching years, it's like there are a lot of ways to reach the top. So if we take the top like Mount Everest, of course you can reach it by many different ways. And people, what I have seen during all those years, like people react differently to trainings. And what is really the most important is to understand as early as possible what works for you. So this it's highly important, and I would say, once again, you will see during the preparation, I put a lot of more energy into the mental part than in the physical or technical part, because I really believe, like, if you believe really hard in what you do, it makes a big difference. So basically, it's more about believing than really what you are doing. Of course, it's a shortcut, but it's like this. And when we talk about elite sport, what you can be for sure, know for sure it will take time. So I always put this quote. But of course, the preparation is everything for me. It's where you will win your medal. So, and if we look at some of my years as a runner, so season 2007, I was 28. 2010, I was 31. So basically, I want to show you the blue days. So those days, it's where I was away from my home and in camps. So basically, it was 2/3 of the year in travels and in training camps. And when we talk about preparation, one concept which is very important for me is as well, it's a lot about being specific. So preparing specifically for what you will face. And I have always seen the competition as an exam. And if you see an exam, of course, your dream is to have all the questions beforehand, but it's even more important to have the answers. And in your preparation, it's always like this. And I always show this picture. It's the surface of the moon. So if the next World Championships was on the moon, of course, we will start to prepare, analyze everything, what we need, what is relevant, and how we could perform in this surface, try to gather as much information. So basically, it's not so important like the competition itself. What's more important is like really like to find what will make the difference. And for me, one thing I have really put a lot of energy very early, I would say when I was 23, 24, when I was not so successful at World Championships, everyone was calling me like the world champion of the training. And I realized like I was making World Championships a too special happening. And I turned it the opposite. So basically I was making like my trainings World Championships every day. Of course, we are not talking about intensity. It's more like in terms of quality and in terms of philosophy and attitude. So running World Championships was just a very normal process. And I put it in a very simple way. Like the more professional you will be in your daily routines, the more prepared you will be. And at World Championships, you will be very relaxed. So this is one concept I really believe in, and I have put a lot of energy. I put these quotes, and once again, I get a lot of inspiration from different sports. And I know you are quite many from outside orienteering. And there is really this common basis, which is like the preparation and the mental preparation. Talking about the mental preparation, I don't know why it was like this. If my father was really much into coaching, was very into it, but like I realized quite quick, like your brain don't make difference between the reality and the picture you will build up. Of course, it's a big challenge because some people have a bigger time to see themselves succeeding. People see themselves doing mistakes and failing. So of course, it's one of your biggest challenge as coach to change a little bit those kind of picture. But for me, I realized it quite quick, the power of it. This was the first time I became world champion in Switzerland, 2003. I was 24 years old. It was really a big happening because it was first time a Frenchman was winning World Championships. But when I was crossing the finish line, it was really a weird feeling, and I really realized that day that mental preparation was everything, because I couldn't feel any joy actually, because like it was something I had seen so many times in my head and visualizing so much that it just felt like, okay, but what's so special today? I just did it once more, and it was so special because like I really, like, of course I was happy about myself because that time it was for real, but it's really to in-phase the power of mind. And now I will come to some example, like which is quite fresh because it was World Championships this summer, and it's highly interesting because it was a very challenging one for runners and coaches. So nowadays the World Championships will be split between the sprint and the forest races, but this World Championship was still having all the distances. So if you look the timetable for this championships, it's just crazy. It's 7 races in 7 days. So it starts with the sprints, then you have a rest day, middle distance, 2 races, qualification, final the same day, rest day, relay, long distance. So basically we know after this talk you will get cross country, if I got it right, skiing coach. So it's basically very much the same type as the program as the World Championships. But what makes it really challenging is like the type of terrains are really different. So in this championship, the sprint was taking place in fortress, so quite flat running, grass, lot of corners, lot of change in direction. So if you look like the climbing, it was just 40 meters for about 3-4 kilometers, and the winning time between 30 minutes and 15 minutes. So I would say fast and flat running. Right after it was middle distance. So now we see Olaf Lundanes, one of the most successful orienter in one part of the terrain. So it was really broken, a really big mess of stones, very slow runnability. So I will call it like steep and bad runnability. So basically 5 kilometers for 40 minutes. So a fight for every centimeter. And then the last races of the week were taking place in sandstones. So it's one place of Czech Republic with gigantic rocks. And you can see Oli Ojanaro, one of our best runners, running in between cliffs. So you see the runnability is pretty good, but ultra steep. So it means like the men's long distance had 1 kilometer climbing. So the runnability very good, but really steep. So basically when you prepare for this, it's very different skills, and it's quite interesting to look how it looks the result. So you have the top 3 for every distances. So basically the face and the names are not so important, but what I would like to show now is like in men, we have like, especially after last weekend, it was the World Cup final in Italy, we have this Kasper Foster. He's 22 years old. He's really dominant. Now it's a guy who is able to run 3,000 meters on track under 8 minutes. And of course, he's also very skilled orienter. So this guy has been able to perform in sprint and of course in long distance. And then we have one very well-known Swiss guy, Matthias Kickboard, 31 years old. So you see his result, he was 8 in sprint, winning the middle and second in long distance. If we take the woman, we have this monster, Tove Alexanderson. So she's winning basically everything. She has been winning in sky running, in ski mountaineering. So she's good everywhere. But what I want to say, like, and when we talk about being specific, what you can see is like Maya Alm. She was third in sprint. She has tried to qualify in marathon for Olympic Games and quite fast in 5,000 and all those athletics distances. So here she has been winning the sprint 4 years in a row. So a big specialist. And if we take the guys, Tim Robertson, New Zealand, you see bronze medalist and very bad in the other distances. But also this guy, Isaac Crescenterna, so this one, of course, I know him pretty well because he lives in Uppsala and I was part of the preparation. So he was just running sprint at work, and of course it was making the whole difference. He was not running any forest. And we can have a look a little bit about his final preparation. So this guy, quite quickly in the season, after European champs in middle of May, we realized like his biggest chance was World Championships sprint. So he cancelled all the training camps in Czech Republic and instead he was preparing at home. So when the other guys like Casper or Keyboards were preparing in very hilly terrain, he went into a very specific preparation. So we went in training camp in France. We find some really relevant terrain in France. So this city, it's called Neubrezac. It's close to the German border. And we could really simulate what was expected at World Championships because maybe not everyone knows, but terrains before World Championships are embargoed. So you are not allowed to train on those places. So we were really like trying to find relevant stats and try to be simulating the walk races. Also in Uppsala, unfortunately, we don't have so much of those fortress, but we have a small castle and we were doing a lot of preparation just on this kind of architecture as well. And also the mental preparation was pushed to the limit with really the main goal to have the feeling like even though you have never been in that terrain, you really want to feel like you run in your garden. So for this, of course, we were using a lot of Street View, Google Map picture, every information we could get. So of course, it's not very specific to the Swedish team or anyone. Everyone is doing this, but this will really push it to the limit. So we wanted to know every opening in the tunnel, how it was looking. So really, like when he was coming here for the first time, he had a perfect flow all the time. And we did this in every part. So this on the bottom, it's like tourist picture you find online on the web. So of course we were using it a lot for the mental preparation. And basically all the opening, even though it was no Street View everywhere, we had put so much energy to know exactly in which corner he had to turn. And even though the course was new and still a surprise, it felt like he had been there before. And to increase this, once again, with the mental picture, with the help of Photoshop or things like this, we were putting like fake control. So you really like create the image of the terrain with reality. And of course, this I am a big believer in it because it makes a difference. Then, if I talk about the preparation, and it's something I really believe in, and it has been my philosophy, like if we look the biggest stress of the elite athlete, and it was same for me, it was always discussion, will I be in good shape at World Championships? So this, I think it's common to every sport, and for me, I solve it. And this, I must say, it's very hard to control because there are so many parameters, and you have been to Tokyo for some of you, so you change climate, you change food, so it's a lot of factors affecting like the picking. And for me, I solve it this way, like picking should be optional. So what does it mean? And I put this quote from Ronda Rousey, I train to be the best in the world on my worst day. I think it's really the meaning of this message. So if like during a season, I had like basically in my competition season, I had 40 races. So this, if all the courses were exactly the same in distance, the terrain and things like this, I would say like when I had really bad days, bad sleep, bad preparation, I would say I will run this course. Like, of course, it's just a caricature, and but I would say like around 70 minutes for this course. So those, during the season, I will have 3 really bad performances. And then sometimes you can't explain it. You show up at local trainings and you feel like a beast. And you will run this course like super fast. Hopefully it will be at World Championships or important races, but this, everyone has experienced it. Sometimes it happens on a training day and you wonder why. So those maybe 3 very top performances. And what we see is basically what I'm calling like your average. It's where you will perform most of the time. So it's your level. And if I see my competition years, when I was 22, beginning as a senior classes, there will be really big differences between my top days and bad days. And sometimes it was World Championships and I will end up because I knew I could do more. But all those years, and when I was thinking about trainings, and of course I won't get into details of trainings because it's not the most interesting, but like the purpose of trainings for me has always been to reduce the difference between the bad days and the great days. So basically in 2007, which was my best year, I was 28 years old and winning all the World Cup races. I could really feel like sit before start and still have quite a high standard. So when you think about your training and preparation, really for me the aim is really like this, and it's lower a lot the stress. So now I will move to the one keyword, which is for me evaluation, because like if you don't want to miss your target, of course, you need to put a lot of energy on evaluation. And most of people who don't succeed, it's mostly because they do wrong analysis of the situation. So basically, and it's nothing very special, I know 90% of coaches or top athletes are doing the same. You have checkpoints during the season, because of course, I have talked about the mental preparation, positive self-talks, this kind of stuff, but nothing is better than confidence based on fact. So basically it means on results. So if we look like this, I like this picture a lot, because if I take World Championships, or it can be Olympic Games or whatever, for me it's that giant cake. It means like it's way too big to eat it at once. And you need to make some small slide of it if you want to be there. And it's what I mean by checkpoint. If we take back my season 2007, in red, you have the competition. And those ones, not all of them are important ones, but the first, those 4 days were important ones. So I will get back to it. And of course, the last World Cup races before World Championships were, but basically every 2 months I had competition where I was doing really a self-evaluation, and I was not finding excuses if the result was not good enough. So those 4 first days, I just want to talk a little bit about it, because it's a concept I really believe in. It's what we call, of course, the first races of the season. Most of the time it was in Portugal. I was doing them. It was not the most important competition of the season, but I really wanted to, I already had like basically 4 months of preparation. So I was already quite sharp, and I was spending a lot of time in Spain and Portugal. So I was training a lot in snow-free area. So I was already very sharp compared to my competitors. And those were really important because already from the beginning, I was putting myself in the mind of my competitors. And this, I read it as well in an interview like Mats Wilander, this tennis player from 80s, who was saying like Australian Open in tennis is really an important tournament. It's one of the fourth Grand Slam. It's really important tournament because the one who wins that one is already taking the lead in the mind of the competitors. And of course, like it's better to be in front than chasing. So, of course, tennis is different because like it's man-to-man battle, and the mental part is at least 60% of the performance. But still, I really believe in this concept. And then, to evaluate yourself, what I was doing a lot, crossing the finish line, a lot of feelings in your mind, things like this. Of course, when you hear the speaker, you already get the first feedback. But I was always using like 20 minutes, 30 minutes on my own, doing a cool down. And then I was replaying the race in my mind. And like, of course, some parts were suboptimal, and I was really like trying to play them with the right attitude and things like that. It's a concept I really believe very hard in it, like replaying the stuff and trying to correct it mentally. So I had this notebook and writing a lot of stuff during the season. And of course, for me, it was an important part of the process. Also, the balance. This is very important, especially when you are successful, because like people see you, think you are never as good as people think you are, and when you fail, you are never as bad as you think you are. So it's really a balance, but in that balance, and it was something I had to fight hard in the Swedish culture, because like, one thing which is maybe like common to most of people is like people train in different ways for sure, but most of them, the really successful, hate losing. So this is really something I have seen from my years coaching the Swedes. Like those who succeed the best, of course, they hate losing. And this is a picture of World Championships in 2006 in Denmark, the middle distance. I had been winning like the 3 last World Championships, and this one, fourth, I couldn't see myself losing anymore. And like right there in the podium, it's so much frustration. And all those frustration, I will put it in the training during the winter and things like this, and it will bring me to my best season ever. And this, I mean, like, as coaches, because I guess there are quite many coaches, you should never underestimate the power of frustration. And like, I will give you another example, like, as coaches, you will do team peak. The Finnish team will soon do the team peak for the national team 2022. And of course, it feels always bad when you don't pick a runner on the edge and things like this. But I always like remember people this story, like Hermann Maier, one of the most successful alpine skier, was not picked for the Austrian alpine skiing team. And this guy, after this, so he spent the whole summer doing some carpenting and developing himself. And this guy won 54 World Cup races. So it means like it's not because you are outside the process at some point that you can't catch back the train, and the frustration is really something big for me. And finally, when I do the analysis and of myself, I want to keep it super simple. And like for me, the best one is, as always, been this triangle, where the performance was a result of food, rest, and training. And we always put a lot of energy on training, but very little on the two others. And for me, like you see, those the size of the triangle are equal, and for me, it's really important to put as much energy in food and resting to reach top performances. And of course, you can and basically, once again, it's nothing new. This, I put it, it's the Team Sky in cycling who use it a lot, this marginal gains. So basically, the idea is to do everything a little bit better, and it makes a big difference at the end. So this, it's of course something I really believe in, because nowadays, I don't think there is any teams, at least in orienteering, who do something extraordinary with internet, and it's a very friendly sport, so people train together. We know basically how everyone is training. So I'm a big believer that it's mostly about doing everything a bit better. Then the third part, of course, a big part of it, it's like closer to the competition, like really during the week. So when I talked to the runners, and it was a story from myself, I really told them all the time to not make it too complicated. Competing should remain simple all the time. And this, I have a small story about it. This Junior World Championships in 98, I'm 19 years old. So in the left picture, we see myself just before the start. And 4 days before, I'm at the funeral of my mother, who died from a cancer, and of course, the most dramatic experience of my life. And like, I still stand in front of the start line, and then I end up at the time I was a good junior, but still it was my best result by far in the long distance. So I end up as a silver medalist. Okay, of course, my mind was spot on, and I was not here to compete. But then I just follow a recipe. It was for me like cooking. If you put the ingredients in the right order, you get the same result all the time. So this, it was really like a game changer in my elite career, because I realized, okay, if you always keep it that way, you will always succeed. And we tend to make it too complicated. And for this, one very important thing, take care of what you can control. And most of the time, we use energy on the wrong stuff. And this, of course, like, so it's a small quote from the coach of the Lyon football team. It's a team I was living nearby, very successful at the end of 90s and 2000. So I really like this quote. When it's raining, I take an umbrella, I will not stop the rain. And at least in orienteering, there are a lot of things which you can control. The mapping style, the terrain, the weather, the competitors, the start list. But I mean, if we take skiing, when I see, of course, it's the biggest things in your sport, but waxing and this kind of stuff, it's a lot of stuff which you can control. And for me, it's like so important. You really put a lot of energy in your attitude. And this I will give and finish with this. It's a small example. So this basically, it's what we call the model event. It's the last training race before World Championship. So this was in Ukraine, 2007. I was 28 years old. I had been winning all the races in the spring and before, all the World Cup races. So of course I was coming at this World Championships as the big favorite. And like, of course, it's you can only fail, because if you don't win World Championships when you have been winning everything else, you will look a lot stupid. So of course you have a lot of negative thoughts in your mind. But then those previous days are so important. So of course, like all the time, you talk to yourself, I'm ready, I know what I have to do, so all this kind of stuff. Then my strategy was always the same, to cut down internet the week before, because of course you are not weak, you are super strong mentally, but of course you want to protect yourself, because if you read something on internet, some comments and things like this, it will affect you somehow. And this, for me, it was really important to push yourself in the right direction. And I mean, orienteering is a joke compared to all the football stuff, and I was using it a lot as well. I was trying to keep the right distance and things like this, but also the day of the competition, I was always turning off my phone, because I knew I will get a lot of messages from friends and my family before the races, and those people, they are not in your close bubble. It means like they don't know how sensitive you are or things like this. And you really want to protect against yourself, against this kind of environment, even if those people want the best for you. So it was really important for me. Like I closed down my phone and I focus on my mission and I don't get too emotional. So it was my strategy. And then the last point, it's like, of course, when you put 1 full year and sometimes 7 more, because the Olympic Games it's 4 years, so I have never experienced this, but I guess it's times 4. Of course, like it's natural to become stressy the delay. But me, I was always trying to find the balance, and one of my strategy was always to put everything in perspective, what I was doing compared to other stuff in life. And one of my, the day before competing, I was always looking some war movie, like Saving Private Ryan or this kind of war movie. Because when I see this guy in the trenches, of course, it's fear. When I'm going to compete for World Championships, it's not fear. This, and right away, when I put everything into perspective, then I was feeling really relaxed and I was ready to enjoy. And once again, we get back to this giant cake. You enter the D-Day, and this, for me as well, you need to split the cake. So you need to split the day into very small action. And this, it's the paper I had during my competition days. So basically, if we look, we don't need to go. It's really like I had clear focus all the time, a timetable. So this is common to a lot of sports. So my start time was this is the last race of my elite career at World Championships. So I was starting 12:37, and then you have a lot of small action split like this. And for me, what was super important, like always, being in the moment. So for every part of the day, when I brush my teeth in the morning, I'm focusing on this. And it means like by doing this, you always can handle the stress and keep it on okay level all the time. So this, of course, I'm a big believer in it, being in the moment all the time, and it's the way I did it. So basically, and it's my last slide, because I have talked about war movie, I have talked about like splitting the cake, and all this basically it's to find back the joy you need to have in competing. So smiling, and I really enjoy this. The coach of Alexander Popov, of course, I guess at least those who were already competing or coaching in 90s know who are talking about. So this, it was very, very important for me. Are you still able to smile at the start, in the start line? And this, like, of course, like your mind is full. You have mission to complete, but still you see the fun part of it and the joy of it. So for me, I wanted to end with that part because, of course, it has a big meaning for me, and it's why I have done those elite years, and also why I'm doing coaching. It's because, of course, it's a lot of fun and it's experiencing life at the maximum. So yeah, it's not one. Once again, a lot of concepts throw at you at a quick pace. I didn't go very deep into the physical development, technical development, but for me it's not the most important. And you had got previous lecture. Everyone is different, so I hope at least it was something interesting enough for all of you. So if you have questions, I don't know, Oli-Pekka, you said like maybe in the chat or you have seen something popping up, so feel free.